We're live on the air. Good morning and welcome to this episode of St. John's Grotto, recorded live from the study of St. John's Lutheran Church, Sanborn, Iowa. My name is Pastor Nick Sinatra. So glad to have you all here this morning. It is a dreary April shower kind of day today. And for those of you who don't live in the area, back on Monday we got hit with a hailstorm and maybe a couple small tornadoes. No major damage done to the town, but certainly was quite a sight to behold. And we thank God that I believe everybody made it out okay uh, in this most recent weather event. It's also kind of a fun time of year this about right now because I know all the farmers around here are planting, or at least preparing to plant if they haven't started planting already. Chemical trucks going out to fertilize fields and lay down some pesticide, herbicide. So it's a fun time up here in northwest Iowa as we get ready for yet another growing season. Definitely the beginning of spring around here with all the rain and the storms and the planting and all that. It's a great time of year. The gloom of winter is hopefully for the most part over now. As someone who hasn't lived in this part of the world for all that very long, not even a whole year yet, I have been told that we could snow again before it's all said and done. And, the southern boy in me doesn't much care for that. But, well, is what it is, and to God be the glory no matter what, whether we get rain or snow or a nice sunny day with 70-degree weather like we have been getting. But regardless whether it rains or snows, we have yet to look forward to another Sunday in Easter. This Sunday will be the third Sunday in Easter, Latin name Misericordias Domini, which I don't remember exactly what that translates to. But I think even the introit name, the Latin name that we have here, is kind of a little misleading as to what you're going to find on this Sunday. This Sunday, at least according to the one-year lectionary that we're on here at St. John's, is Good Shepherd Sunday. Because all the readings have something to do with the Good Shepherd. So whether it is the Old Testament with Ezekiel, whether it's Psalm 23, or even the Epistle of Peter that talks about Christ being the shepherd of your souls. And of course, all of these readings then point to the Holy Gospel reading. The Holy Gospel reading is from St. John chapter 10, which, for those of you who know St. John's Gospel, that is the Good Shepherd chapter. Now, it doesn't read the whole chapter, it just reads a few verses, which I will go ahead and read for you right now. A reading from John chapter 10, verses 11 through 16. And Jesus said, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Now, of course, Jesus has quite a few words about the Good Shepherd before this and well after this. In fact, most of this chapter, about half of this chapter, is the Good Shepherd. But we're just left with these few verses here, and I think they have plenty for us to chew upon, to, whatever the term you would use here. Let us digest what we've got here. And so we notice here in this section of the Good Shepherd discourse that there's a couple elements. Well, for one, there is the Good Shepherd, which Jesus quickly identifies himself to be. I am the Good Shepherd. Of course, there is the sheep. And I think we can all remember from Sunday school who the sheep are. you, me, God's people. And of course, in verse 16, he alludes that the sheep aren't just the Jews, but also from other flocks, the Gentiles. That is, the message of salvation isn't just for the Jews, but also for the Gentiles, for everyone, for all people. And then, of course, there's the wolf. We've probably also heard that one from Sunday school. Um, the wolf being Satan, the world, temptations, what have you. But then there's another character that I think oftentimes gets overlooked whenever we present this in a Sunday school type of context, and that is the hired hand, or if you want the older English term, the hireling. This is your minimum wage employee who's supposed to look after the sheep, supposed to feed them, supposed to take care of them. But note what Jesus says about the hireling. The hireling, the hired hand is not the shepherd. He doesn't own the sheep. He's just simply there supposed to take care of them. But catch this. When the wolf comes, he leaves the sheep and he runs for his life. See, he won't lay down his life for the sheep because they're not his. They're not his to own. If the sheep get caught, well, whatever. That's the owner's problem. That's his problem to go through his insurance agent to get compensated for his loss. Not my problem. My minimum wage doesn't pay that. So this is the elements we're dealing with here. And St. John's Gospel is not really known for parables. That's more the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But even here, we have to lead. It's like, okay, if we know Jesus is the good shepherd, we know that the devil is the wolf, and we know that we're the sheep, who exactly is the hireling? My friends, the hireling is that person or entity out there that tells you what you ought to do, but doesn't then show you Christ. I think as Luther would put it, the hireling is the one who preaches and teaches the law, which is good and right. The law is great. There's a reason God gave it, and we would do well to follow it. But the law left unanswered does not save. In fact, the law just doesn't save in general. The law shows us our sin and convicts us of it. The law kills. And so that's what the hireling does. The hireling is supposed to lead the sheep in the path that they're supposed to go. And of course, when the sheep inevitably wander, the hireling isn't going to go chase after them and fend off the wolf and bring them back on the right path. If a wolf has got a sheep in its jaws, the hireling's not going to come with a stick or a slingshot or some other kind of weapon and beat the wolf and get it to let go of the sheep. The hireling's going to run at the first sign of trouble. It's like if you get in trouble with the law. The law isn't going to get you out of jail. It's going to put you in jail, and it's going to throw away the key. And so that's what Jesus makes a distinction here. Jesus is speaking this to a group of Pharisees, as well as his disciples. But he kind of has this aimed at the Pharisees when he's talking about this. And, a couple verses prior to this, they don't understand what Jesus is talking about when he talks about shepherds and sheep and voices. So Jesus has them in mind, because the Pharisees laid upon not just the law of Moses upon the people, but also their own man-made laws. Little peculiarities. You break this, oh, you've broken the law, well, boo-hoo, bad you, type of deal. And while we don't live, in first century Judea, with the group of Pharisees and the Sadducees and whatnot, we still have plenty of hirelings out there. If whatever teacher you're listening to only tells you what you should be doing and that you must do X, Y, and Z, but doesn't ever show you Christ, then you got yourself a hireling. You don't have the good shepherd. And the first sign of trouble, that hireling's going to run. Whether the hireling himself gets in trouble because he, by virtue, can't even keep his own laws, or whether when you get in trouble, they're not going to help you. But thanks be to God that we are not left with a hireling. In fact, we have the Good Shepherd. You see, when we get ourselves in trouble, as we perhaps inevitably do because we are fallen creatures, because we are dumb sheep, Jesus will be ready to pick us out of it. In fact, he has by his sacrifice on the cross. And I'm not saying that you should willingly go put yourself in trouble. Well, don't be that dumb. But if we should fall into trouble, we have an advocate. We have somebody who would save us. Not somebody who's going to leave us to be wolf food. Not somebody who's, going to say, oh, tough luck, better luck next time. Oh, wait, there's not another next time. No, Jesus is the good shepherd who would lay down his life for us, the sheep. This is the sort of preaching you can expect this Sunday at St. John's Lutheran Church here in Sanborn, Iowa. 305 Angie Street, Sanborn, Iowa, zip code 51248. We're just south of U.S. Highway 18 in this northwestern part of O'Brien County, Iowa, in the northwestern side of Iowa. If you're on your way to the Black Hills or to the Iowa Great Lakes and happen to be passing through, we'd love for you to stop in and say hi, especially if you're Lutheran curious or Christian curious. We'd love to have you come in and come see us for real. We do live stream our services at 9 a.m. On Sunday morning, but the live stream is meant for people who perhaps can't make it to church, or for perhaps people who are curious and want to see before coming in. We encourage you to come in person, because I tell you, our people here would be glad to have you as a visitor. We do enjoy talking with people who come in from outside, who perhaps are curious as to what we believe and what practices we have that are informed by those beliefs. So come pay us a visit. We'd be glad to see you here. All sorts of fun things happening here at St. John's in the coming weeks. Next week, we have our zone rally for the Lutheran Women's Missionary League, LWML, a Missouri Synod-wide organization. But the zone rally occurs here next Wednesday, 1 o'clock. So ladies of the congregation, don't forget to mark your calendars for that, because that'll be good fun. We'll be having Pastor Chris Nitzel from St. Paul's Hartley making a presentation. I'll be here, and it'll just be a good time. Also, keep track of us here on Facebook, as I'm sure some of you are watching us here. We also do post our services on YouTube, but I will say also for our Facebook and our website, we do post some of the other events that are going on around here. So, all this and more, just come check us out and come hear of the Good Shepherd and how he comes and lays down his life for your soul, because he loves you so much. My name is Pastor Nick Sinatra. This has been St. John's Grotto, out of the study of St. John's Lutheran Church, Sanborn, Iowa. Every blessing in Christ. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.